Okay, hello everyone. So this is my Bathurst track guide for this week. So thanks for watching the lap. First thing to apologise for is the lack of the gears. So I had my other display on here. So just for the record, brake bias, there you can see it is 59 for that lap. Just play around with what you think. The default is really high, 65 for the default for some reason. But for me, like, I'm just trying to avoid front locking in some of those really tricky parts. So for me, 59 seems to work alright this week. So this is for the officials. This was the third lap of a race. This was here lap 3, which would be at the equivalent of of your qualifying second lap. On this occasion, I messed up my second lap in qualifying, so didn't get that on the board. But there you go. That was a high fuel lap, I guess. Whereas later in the race, obviously, you can get some lower lap times as well, and some people can get into the 57s. I didn't manage to do it on this occasion. But let's just go through the lap turn by turn, so just bear with me because I'm trying to do this in one take, as I always do, because I can't be bothered to do editing. I am very lazy like that. So let's just do turn by turn, talk about it if you want to listen to me talk about it, and I'll try and, get my knowledge across to you. So yeah, track time there, 22, fixed setup, and as I said, 59 on the brake bias. I just don't want to drown out myself, so yeah, that's fine. Okay. So turn by turn, turn 1, we're going to brake in between the 100 and the 50 meter board. And we're going to go quite high onto the brakes. So I'm putting my brake pressure pretty high to like over 80%. I think 85%, so I've got my Garage 61 here. Shout out to Garage 61, the best iRacing app on the internet. 85% there, and we're trailing it in. I kind of struggle with this corner, weirdly. On paper it's quite a simple corner, but I think that the camber here, the way the track dips down, can catch you out a bit. But so I'm trail braking for quite a while here, making sure you've got the car to the inside, and you can push out onto the outside curb as much as you can. If you put those two wheels as well, then you're going to lose traction, which you don't want to do. So yeah, I mean, not too much to say about this turn, just in between the meter boards, trail brake, push to the exit. Then on this straight, staying to the middle of the track because I'm going to wait until I go over this crest before moving to the left, just to like spend more time on this downhill section, probably pick up the tiniest amount of time by having more time on this downhill bit to pick up more speed. Now, so we're staying in 5th gear here. So we're going to stay in 5th gear, and we're going to use this access road. This actually leads to some, whatever this is, interestingly enough. I think there's people who live inside this track, which is pretty cool. So, braking on the driveway for this wedding and corporate events thing here, as you do. And then we're going to very quickly start trailing down after the initial heavy braking and trailing down, because we really need the car to be inside this compression here. So, it's very important to stay really close to this curb, but also to obviously not go over the curb. But the point is that I'm going to, after my initial braking here, I'm going to quite quickly start trailing off and doing a little bit of start turning in quite early and quite gently, because you really need to get into this compression point in the apex here. And once you've done that, once you've trail braked a bit, got the car settled down on the inside, then you can go on the throttle pretty early, because if you manage to get your car down into this point, then you've got a lot of grip, and then you can go full throttle really early. So yeah, in and then push out really early, and you go down to 3rd gear to get the revs high and make sure that you've got a good base to work with before pushing out. If you're in 4th gear, you'll probably just understeer at this point. So yeah, nice and tight and then push out all the way. And also just make sure to push the revs as high as you can in third gear, because you're going uphill, so you don't want to short shift to fourth. Like, you want to make sure you're shifting as late as possible without bouncing off the rev limiter. So this is fourth gear. Now turn 5 and 6 here. The cutting, I believe. The cutting, indeed. Let's see. So this is one where there's a couple of different options really with this one. So I'm going to go towards the inside here. Now some people will want to go really tight to the inside. Some people will want to take a wider exit. And the point is that then obviously you want to let your car drift out to this side of the track a bit. But what the hell is happening? Why is my screen flashing? But I sometimes have issues with like understeering. In the past sometimes I've wanted to keep my car tighter, which you can do if you want, but you're gonna lose speed. Ultimately, you want to be trail braking and letting your car go outside. Then we're going to be trail braking down into second gear. If I go back to cockpit, obviously at this point we're braking, we go down to third gear, to second gear, and we're trail braking to the inside, and then again getting as close to this wall as possible. And then on the exit, you really need to manage the throttle, but you can do a half throttle whilst you wait for all of the traction to come in second gear before pushing to third gear. So it's up to you how much you want to let the car go out wide. This is a corner where I've historically been slower than my rivals, and it's because I wasn't letting the car go outside as much as I could have. And so I was reducing the amount of speed that I could take for turn 6. So you really just want to experiment with it. But this track is very risk and reward heavy, so if you want to be safe, you can just stay more to the inside. And then you'll make sure you never end up understeering into this wall or losing the rear end. But yeah, if you want to be really fast, you need to use all the track that you have. This keeps flashing. I don't know why it keeps flashing. Apologies. Third gear then, you've got a bump here, but you can go flat out over the bump as long as you angle the car properly, and as long as you're not steering too much, basically. If you're steering a lot, you might spin on the bump. And then we're just going to be flat out and just doing gentle steering inputs. Now here, we're going to go over this crest in the middle, but you want to let the car push out. We're aiming for this Etihad wall and aiming for this kind of runoff on the outside of the white line, because we need to let our car go here so that we maximize the entry for the next left-hander, and we can do this flat out. So use all the width and just find your own flow, find your own gentle steering input to make sure that you can take this flat out. And then for this one, not quite flat out, we're gonna come to this curb, and when you reach this curb, then we start turning in. So if we go back to the cockpit cam, you know, we're approaching this curb. As soon as we get to this curb, we start turning in and we do a lift. Up to you how much you need to lift. I lift until I make sure that I've got enough grip, and then I turn left. And also this curb on the left, you can go over this curb as well. I think on this occasion I actually ended up kind of understeering, so I needed to lift again, which is not ideal. Ideally you do your lift here and then you're going to go flat out, but on this occasion I ended up going onto this exit curb, which is okay. If you do 2 wheels on the exit curb, that's okay. But bear in mind, if you put more of your car onto this curb, you can end up in disaster zone, so just be careful. But you want to find the grip after lifting and just come down to the inside here. Now we're going to stay in 5th gear, don't go out of 5th gear. Bearing in mind with turn 4 as well, turn 2 we were staying in 5th gear just to make sure we have less downshifting to do, and you don't actually gain much speed by going to... You don't gain any speed. If you go to 6th gear at the end of that straight, you actually lose speed, so bear that in mind. And here again, staying in 5th gear. Now this is obviously the infamous part of the track. So this is the bit where like it's quite dependent on your own sense of control and your own driver technique. But if I'm going to break this section down, we're going to the left hand side. we're going to start lifting off a bit to reduce our speed, and then I'm already starting to trail brake at the top of this hill. And what we need to do here, everyone's going to be doing this a bit differently because we will have a different feeling for this section, but it's all about riding the brake anywhere between 10 and 50% or something like that. Ideally, the less the better, but obviously, you know, if you're finding yourself overrunning this section, just bring back your braking point, bring back the point that you start lifting. And we want to ride the brake all the way down the hill, get close to this wall, then we want to get over this curb, and then we're going to be down in third gear, and we're still trail braking, trying to stay as close to this wall as possible, because then we need to open up the final kind of the final part of this part, the left-hander here with the black wall. So in terms of gears, we were starting off in 5th gear, down to 4th, 3rd. Now you could go to 2nd here, that's fine, or stay in 3rd. You might want to do this bit in 3rd as well, but 2nd gear just helps you retain more control of the car and have more confidence to bring the car down close to this wall, close to that wall, and then push out in 2nd gear once you've got the car stable. So yeah, I mean, I'll give you a tip. If you want, you can go to test drive and use active reset. There's tutorials on active reset that you could use to rinse and repeat this section if it's really difficult for you. Practice makes perfect, and just having gentle control of the brake. But it's all just about getting as close to the wall as possible, isn't it? So, sorry for this flashing. I don't know if you're seeing it as well as I am, but obviously it's all about getting as close to these walls as possible, using this curb, gentle braking not to upset the car, gentle braking, gentle trail braking, and then we're going to push the throttle. At this point, then you want to be pushing the throttle so that the car is going to, when it lands here, it's going to push out of the corner and not lose rear grip. Yeah. And there we go. Then for this bit, this is turn 16 to 18. We're going to lift off and start braking a little bit to start slowing the car down and bring it close to this wall. But you don't want to brake too much at this point, because then the car is going to like swerve to the right, so you're going to lose your rear end. Also, if that's happening, you could increase your brake bias to stop that from happening if you're struggling with losing the rear grip at this point. But braking gently, and then once your steering wheel is in a straight line, then you can start increasing the brake pressure a little bit. So gentle here, then straighten the braking. And then you want to start coming down to the apex quite early. You don't want your car to be going off to the right here, because the track's like sloping downwards, so you want to be following that slope down to the apex for turn 18, turn 18. And this is a really important apex, to be really close to the apex and have the car really stable at this point, because it's really easy to then understeer on turn 18. So if we go back to chase, braking and coming down to the left, down to 2nd gear, and then trail braking to the apex, and then you want to have the car at this point really close to the wall so that you can push out of turn 18 with confidence. So yeah, braking down, trail braking, and then push out. I hate talking this much. Yeah. And again, you just really want to be gentle with the steering input as well. So gentle at this point so that the car doesn't lose traction. And then you kind of just gently coaxing the car towards the apex whilst releasing your trail braking, because you just need to retain grip, don't lose the grip. And you can coax the car down to this apex. And this is the important part, just being close to this apex. Yeah, I think that sums that up. Yeah, push out. Obviously it's up to you again, getting your feeling of how much you can push to this wall. That wall's claimed many front ends in the past, racing in these radical series. And then down the straight we're going to go up to 6th gear at the end, of course, maximum speed. And then braking, we're just looking for We're looking for the 150, you can do it a bit after the 150 hopefully, somewhere in between the 150 and the 100. 90% on the brakes and then lifting off the brake and trail braking down to third gear, pushing out. Yeah, that's a pretty simple corner I think. And then for this one I'm looking at the 100 meter board and braking. And then for this one I find this one quite tricky actually for such a, like turn 1, on paper it's a simple corner, but for me it's quite tricky because the track's kind of uneven. So you want to get as close to this curve as possible, again without going onto the curb because it's going to upset your car. But you want to get close to it as well because you don't want to understeer off the exit. But again, yeah, just up on the brake and then trail brake off. And that does the lap. Yeah, so just to reiterate with the gearing, the third gear for most of the turns, going down to second in some places for maximum control of the car. And I think I've said enough about this lap. So yeah, thanks for watching, hopefully that was interesting. Let me know what you think and see you later.